welcome back to a new video. So today is going to be a bit more of a chill video. I'm leant back in my chair. I have a hot chocolate to the side of me here. And I just kind of wanted to have a sit down and talk about kind of how I moved out, fairly young. I moved straight out at 18, and now of course I've moved 2 hours away from my parents whilst also being autistic and disabled. And I kind of just wanted to talk about that. Independence was always very important to me. I've always been very independent. I mean, when I was very young, I was extremely clingy, but when I hit about 8 years old, I was off. I was done with other people. I was like, yeah, I know how to do that. Leave me alone. And by the age of like 12, I was sitting and watching like this kind of video on YouTube and, desperately trying to find ways to save money. But obviously I was far too young to get a job or anything. So yeah, I've been kind of desperate to get to this point for so long, and I'm so grateful to be here now. And I don't know, I kind of just wanted to talk about the things that helped me get here, and also for anyone else who is like 12, 14 who's watching this video, know that it is attainable. Like I've been the 12-year-old who's watching all of these, like, how I moved out at 18 videos and, how to make money and how to goal set. I watched so many of those videos when I was like 12 years old. So if you're one of them right now, I have been there, trust me. But it won't stay that way forever. I know it's frustrating, because you're only 12 and you obviously can't do anything, but life does move on. You will get to the point where you can move out, I promise. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about all the things that have helped me as an autistic and disabled person move out, kind of the extra things I had to think about, the ways I've adapted to living alone when I can't do certain things. And also just kind of, I'm hoping this video might help some people, if you are like 12 and you just want a bit of inspiration to know that it is possible, or if you yourself are planning to move out soon and, even if you're not autistic or disabled in any way, these things, they can help abled people as well. There's no shame in making your life easier. So yeah, I hope that it'll help some people, and also kind of just wanted to have a chit chat about it. So I suppose I should start with, when you're moving out on your own, there's a lot of things you have to think about. Whether you're disabled or not, there's a lot of things to think about. Like, moving house is by far the most stressful thing you can do. Yeah, when people say it's the most stressful thing, they really do mean it. It's incredibly stressful, and especially for me, because I'm autistic, one of the things I hate is other people touching my stuff. I have everything in its place. I have nice things and I take care of my things because they matter to me, and, previously people haven't treated my things with the greatest of respect. I mean, I wouldn't even like lend out my glue stick and stuff at school because I knew that people, they'd push too hard and they'd mess it up. And although, like, yes, it is just a glue stick, it mattered to me. And obviously when you're moving house, you can't move everything by yourself. I mean, if you do, good job, but let's be honest, you can't move house by yourself. And so therefore, obviously, I had to get my parents, and my grandparents helped out this time as well. And so mostly it was my dad and my granddad moving the boxes. And that causes a great amount of anxiety because, even though I knew they would, they're not just going to toss them around or anything, it still causes a lot of anxiety. So, when moving house, you do have to, think about a lot of things, and specifically when you're disabled or autistic or anything else, there may be extra challenges in there as well, and obviously that's very personal to each individual. My exact challenges are not going to be yours, but, as an example, having other people move my stuff was quite stressful. And a lot of the things I talk about may not be relevant to you personally, but, they're kind of just to give you an idea of the sort of problems that I had that I then solved with these certain things. And then, just to show that it is possible, even though you may not think that you might have X problem and you may think, okay, well, there's no way I can get around that, so I can't ever be independent. There usually is a way. It's not always easy, and it's often, let's be honest, expensive. But there are ways to get around things, and again, it's up to you as the individual to decide what you can compromise on, what you can live with and what you can't live with. So I can't really give you any advice there. It's that's up to you to think out for yourself. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to give some examples and hopefully it's helpful. But before we talk about any of that, I feel the need to talk about the number one thing slash person who, helped me be independent, and that is my mum. So I am well aware that a lot of people, in fact most people, don't have the best mum in the world, because that's only me. I have the best mum in the world, and I will fight you on that. I do. End of discussion. I know she watches these, so love you. Thank you. My mum has always been my best friend. She's always fought in my corner. She won't let anything slide. She seems like a very nice person on the surface, but if you piss her off, or rather mess with her children, boy, are you going to hear about it. We're pretty sure they had some sort of alarm system that went off at school when they got an email from her, because they were like, oh Lord, she's messaged me again. Because yeah, getting an email from my mum is never a good thing, because it means you've pissed me off. And yeah, she's bent over backwards to help me and get me to this point, so that now that obviously I now live 2 hours away, so she can't come over every other day. We still Skype regularly because she's my mum and I want to Skype with her. But yeah, this wouldn't be a video about how I managed to be independent without mentioning how much she's helped me. She helped me to get all the benefits that I needed to be able to actually earn enough money to move out. She communicates with like the electricity company and stuff that I can't do myself, because a lot of them require you to talk on the phone, which I really struggle with. Or they do video calls these days, which I equally struggle with. In fact, that's often worse than talking on the phone for me. That's a whole nother video though. She's going to help me, communicate with my university to help me get the assistance I need there. And yeah, a lot of it is like communication help. She taught me everything I know about budgeting because she works in finance. And I know how incredibly lucky I am to have such supportive parents. So yeah, but it wouldn't be a video about being independent without mentioning my mum. But now on to the problem solving. So a lot of kind of moving out on your own and kind of figuring out what you need to do so it's a lot of problem solving. So the way I did it was that obviously there's a certain amount of things that go into living on your own, such as obviously you don't have your mum to do your shopping anymore, or your washing, or wash the dishes, all of the things that your mum or parents might usually do, change the bedding, things like that, are things that obviously when you live alone, you're going to have to do yourself. Or even if you're living with roommates, they're not going to change your bed sheets for you, so you're going to have to do that yourself. And these are things that you need to think about. And so what I did was, I took a week and I noted down everything I did in a week and everything my mum did for me. And then I looked at that list and I said, okay, is there anything in this list that I can't do or that I might not be able to do on like a daily basis? And I went from there. So the kind of 3 big problems that I had that I needed to solve before moving out on my own were: I cannot wash the dishes. I would struggle to, go and get my Tesco shopping on, food shopping on a semi-regular basis because of my chronic fatigue, because of chronic pain, and also because there's just nowhere close by. Whereas when I lived with my parents, Tesco's was pretty close by. It was like a 10-minute walk. Whereas both times I've moved out, each shop is much further now. And where I live currently, there's only a small co-op close by. There's no big shops at all close by. And not even in the city centre, you have to go kind of to the outskirts to get to the big supermarkets. And so therefore that was obviously a problem because I need food to live. And then also there was cooking, because if you've been around here at all, you'll know that cooking is not something I'm very good at. I mean, I'm good at a lot of things, but if it's in the kitchen, generally just good idea to steer clear. So yeah, those are my 3 problems: dishes, shopping, and cooking. So now let's talk about how I solved those problems. The shopping one was fairly simple. When I still lived back in Milton Keynes with well, I wasn't with my parents. I moved out a year before I actually moved to Norwich, so I had like a year to like practice living on my own when my mum was still only like 10 minutes down the road. And so I tried to do my shopping several times. I'd take the bus and kind of do my shopping with my mum and then take the bus back, so I was kind of half doing it because supermarkets are very overwhelming when you are autistic. Too many bright flashy lights, too many screaming children, just too many people in general. It's all around not a good time. And then of course I got to carry the heavy bags back. Buses are my worst nightmare. I despise them. So that was quite a challenge, and I realised fairly quickly that although I did manage to do that, I had nothing to do for that year while I was just kind of taking a gap year. I could do whatever I wanted. So, if I was just, I had the time and the energy to go Tesco shopping like once or twice a week, but then I couldn't do anything else, which obviously when I go to university, I can't afford to do that because I'm obviously going to be at university studying, so therefore I cannot just go Tesco shopping and do nothing for the rest of the week. And so the way I got around that is that once I moved to Norwich, I've started having my shopping delivered. Now I use Tesco, that's why I keep saying Tesco shopping instead of grocery shopping. We've always done Tesco. They are the best in my opinion. But pretty much every supermarket, regardless of which one you use, whether it be Tesco, Sainsbury's, Co-op, Ocado we used for a while, Waitrose, whatever else you can think of, they pretty much all deliver. And so you can do that. And that was one of the big things, because now whenever I need to stock up, I just order it and they deliver it for me. It's all just online. The website's relatively easy to use, at least the Tesco one. I haven't tested any of the other ones, so I can't speak for that. But yeah, and they just bring it to the door for you. So you can do your weekly grocery shop without ever leaving your bed if you need to. And also, I don't personally use this because I'm fine to, kind of bag my groceries at the door and then bring them to the kitchen. But if you can't do that, if you can't do that for whatever reason, they will bring them in for you. They will take them to your kitchen and unload them for you there. So yeah, if you can't be, unloading and carrying bags to the kitchen, then they will do that for you. I don't personally need that, but they will. So it is an option if that's also something you struggle with. So yeah, I would say getting your groceries delivered is just, it's top tier, I mean, my mum used to do it for like pretty much all of my childhood, and she eventually stopped purely because, she's very picky. Yeah, she's very picky. I'm just going to expose her here. And, so she's the kind of mum. So, like, when you go grocery shopping with your mum and you spend like 40 minutes in the fruit aisle because they like turn over every single piece of fruit to find the top tier piece of fruit. Yeah, she's one of those parents. And so, therefore, whenever she got fruit delivered, it would not be up to her standards. And to be fair, I do agree it was pretty bad. When they say they cherry pick it, they mean they grab the first one. So yeah, if you're the kind of person that orders things like fruit or more non-processed items, then that's something to kind of be aware of. I don't know how other grocery shops are because I've only ever used Tesco. But yeah, my mum would tell you that, they're not that great at picking out the best fruit, but that could be relatively easily solved by, well, either lowering your standards, because to be fair, my mum does have quite high standards, or you get everything else delivered and just go to your local supermarket to kind of pick out the fruit yourself. That's obviously not something that's relevant to me because I do not eat fruit. There is no fruit in this household, no veg, no nothing. But yeah, fruit and stuff is not something that I personally have to worry about. And I've been ordering, my Tesco shopping for months now, and there's not even been one item that they, haven't had or that they've had to substitute or anything. So that's pretty good. But yeah, getting your grocery shopping delivered is amazing, especially if you're disabled. Even if you're not disabled though, it saves you so much time. You don't have to go to you know, the store, which, let's be honest, no one likes going to Tesco's to get the food shopping. It's awful. You know, especially if you're like working 9 to 5, it means you're gonna have to go during peak hours. It's awful. No one likes doing that. It's so much quicker to just go through and take a few boxes online and get someone else to deliver it to you. So, yeah, even if you're not disabled, there is no shame in making your life easier, and I would highly recommend getting your shopping delivered. So, since we're already talking about groceries, it brings me on to another problem, which was cooking, which I am not good at. I have never been great at cooking, mostly because I have Tourette's, and so therefore it got really bad kind of about the age that my mum would kind of start teaching me to cook, and so it was just never a great idea. And honestly, my parents don't really cook anyway. I mean, they did a roast dinner on Sunday, but other than that, it was like, you know, we'd have like McDonald's once a week after we did swimming. That was like the thing. And then we just have, you know, like fish fingers and stuff, which is pretty easy. Just put it in the oven and that's it. So we never really did cooking per se. And so, yeah, it's just not a skill that I ever picked up. And to this day, it's still a fairly dangerous activity for me with my Tourette's. Tourette's and knives don't mix very well. So, yeah, cooking was just something I never really learned to do. I did it a little bit at school. I'm honestly amazed I still have all of my fingers. And yeah, you know, kind of leading up to when I was moving out, several different people, you know, kind of brought up the fact that, oh, well, like, how are you gonna eat because you can't cook? And I was like, well, thanks. But also, you don't really need to be able to cook to move out, if I'm being completely honest. Now, some people are going to disagree with me on this, and some people are going to be having a heart attack. But yeah, well, first of all, I don't eat particularly healthy. I don't. You know, I don't eat junk every day. You know, I haven't had fast food in months because who the hell can afford it in this climate, let's be honest. But I don't go out of my way. I don't home cook every single meal or anything. You know, the extent of my cooking goes, I take out the box, put it on the tray, and put the tray in the oven for 20 minutes. And then I take the tray out the oven and tip it on a plate. And that's really the extent of the cooking that I do. But it's enough, you know, I get fed, I eat every day, and that's fine. So yeah, you really, that was kind of one of those things that, yes, I can't cook, and there's not much I can do about that, because even if I did learn how to cook, and even if I could do it safely, the things that I like to eat don't really require much cooking anyway. So there's just not really much point. So I was just like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Some people are gonna have a problem with how I eat, but that's always the case. You know, because I'm autistic, I eat very repetitively. So, which is why also my weight goes up and down a lot, because, for several months I'll like fixate on, I don't know, like beans and sausage, which doesn't have that many calories in it. And so therefore I'll lose a bit of weight, but then for the next few months I then might fixate on like Cadbury's chocolate, which obviously has a lot of calories, which therefore it goes up. And that's always how I've eaten. I've always eaten very obsessively, and I've essentially had the same diet since I was about 4 years old. Like fish fingers, smileys. That's always a great meal, and really simple. Tip it on the tray, put it in the oven. And to me, that's fine. You might disagree, and if cooking is important to you, then that's great. Just make sure that you have the resources to do that. But yeah, to me it wasn't important, and so although some doctors and like my nanny was a bit worried that, oh, like, what are you gonna eat? And you suck in the kitchen, so what are you gonna do? And it's like, well, yes, I can't. No, I can't make gourmet meals or anything, but I can still turn the oven on, and I can even do pasta every now and again and keep myself fed, which is good enough for me. I also made sure that when I moved here to Norwich, I had a decent sized freezer. Because if you've been watching for a while, you remember back in the old place, it wasn't even really a freezer, it was just a tiny little ice box. It was only about this big. So yeah, I could fit like, I don't know, maybe a couple of tubs of ice cream in there. And it got so iced up so quickly that, like, you know, after only a few months, you had like half the available space left because it was just covered in ice. It was ridiculous. And so therefore, when I moved here, I budgeted to allow myself to, you know, buy a freezer, like a mini freezer if I needed to. But luckily, we found a place with a big fridge freezer, and so therefore it wasn't a problem. But having freezer space is pretty important because obviously, if you've got fresh stuff, you have to eat it quicker. Whereas if you can freeze it, then it lasts for months and even longer sometimes, you know, with like ice cream. Does that ever even go out of date, really? So, yeah, a freezer is important. So, yeah, if you're like me and you eat kind of obsessively, I tend to like bulk buy things. You know, if I'm really into one thing at, you know, at some specific time, like when I first moved in here, I was really into just like fish, just like, you know, you can get those packs of just like 2 breaded cod. So I ordered like loads of them and they're just in the freezer. So yeah, having a freezer is pretty important. But yeah, cooking just isn't kind of that important to me. It might be for you, and therefore, you know, you kind of need to come up with your own solution. Like I said, that's something only you can decide. But for me, it wasn't a huge problem. I can feed myself, and that's good enough for me. One of the biggest problems, though, was the dishes. I just cannot do the dishes at all. It causes so many sensory issues, a meltdown. It causes me to vomit most of the time. I just can't do it. I've tried so many times. It doesn't work. It never ends well. And so therefore something that was really important to me was having a dishwasher. However, if you've ever rented, then you'll know that having a dishwasher in a rented house is like non-existent. It pretty much doesn't exist. And therefore, you know, we were kind of worried about what I was going to do with that. You know, when I first moved out, in my gap year, we just couldn't find one, but it didn't matter because my mum was only like 10 minutes away and she was still bringing my shopping around twice a week, and so she'd just do whatever washing up I had there while we hung out for a few hours, and so it wasn't a big problem. But obviously I'm now 2 hours away from my mum, so she can't exactly come up every like twice a week just to wash the dishes, you know? That's a little bit ridiculous. But we still had the big problem of we could not find anywhere with a dishwasher. However, I recently did a review for my little tabletop dishwasher, which is the solution we found, and oh my god, I love it. Like I said, I did a whole review, so if you want to hear me talk about that in detail, go and watch that video. But yeah, my tabletop dishwasher, life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I remember I discovered the tabletop dishwasher I was scrolling through Instagram mindlessly, as you do, and then I saw a reel of some other lady who was talking about, oh, look at this thing I found, and it was totally like an advert or whatever, and it was a tabletop dishwasher, and I was like, oh, no way. And I like ran through to tell my mom. I was like, Mom, look what I just found. I found a tabletop dishwasher. And she was like, no way. I didn't know that was a thing. And yeah, it godsend, honestly. Tabletop dishwasher is amazing because now all I have to do is load the dishwasher and it does the dishes for me. So those are kind of the 3 main like issues that I had to solve before I was able to move out. But also, a lot of moving out on your own and kind of being independent is kind of building a routine and knowing what you're capable of. You know, so obviously when you have your own house, there, you know, you have to upkeep it, and you know, if you're obviously living with your parents, then they probably do most of that. So, you know, like hoovering, cleaning the bathrooms, taking the bins out, things like that you might not even really think about. I remember when I first moved out, there were several, specifically like kitchen utensils and stuff that I didn't even realize how much I used them because they're just always there. You know, you reach into the cutlery drawer and there's a rolling pin there, you know, but like I didn't think to buy one of those when I moved out, so obviously I don't have a rolling pin. And I'm like, that would have been useful, but I don't have one. So there are just some things that, you know, if you don't do them on a daily basis, then you probably don't even realize how much goes into them. And so obviously when I was moving out, part of the reason I was taking a gap year is because I wanted to get used to it, kind of build a routine, see what I was and wasn't able to do. And so things like hoovering, that's a big task. As someone who, you know, is physically disabled with chronic fatigue, Oh my god, hoovering is a big deal. In fact, when I'm filming this, I hoovered yesterday, and yeah, it's a lot. I am very tired today, but it is what it is. It needed to be done. There was stuff all over the floor, so I had to hoover. And it's kind of just being aware of that. And, obviously, like, if I'd had to go somewhere today, I wouldn't have hoovered yesterday because obviously that would leave me tired today, and then I wouldn't have been able to go out. So it's kind of, know your limits, and, kind of also just learn to kind of enforce boundaries. And a lot of it is just kind of, personal work. You have to, enforce your own boundaries. So, for example, Sunday is usually my chore day. And so I'll kind of, I usually hoover on Sunday. I didn't because I was meant to hoover last Sunday, but it was far too hot. So I left it a few days. But I'll go around and do like a big tidy. I'll clean the kitchen counters. Just like thoroughly clean the toilets, clean the bathroom, etc. And so therefore, because Sunday's so important to me, and it's also when I edit the vlog and stuff as well, I do a lot of upkeep on Sundays. Sunday is off limits for other people, and I'm strict about that. If someone were to say, "Oh, can you do this thing on Sunday?" it would be a no, because that's my day to do chores and stuff. And although the actual chores themselves probably only take about an hour and a half of actual actively doing chores, it takes the whole day because I have to sit down and rest a lot in between. And it's, but I know that about myself. I know that that's what it takes to get it done. And it's important to me that my house is clean. And therefore I enforce that boundary. And I took the time to learn that about myself as well. And so, for you, it might not be as important. You might not really feel the need to hoover that much. Hoovering like every 3 months might be enough for you. But for me, it's not. I like to hoover every couple of weeks. And also because I have a cat, his fur gets everywhere. So, but yeah, a lot of it is just kind of, learning what you're capable of and sticking to it. And like I said, everyone's going to be different. And so what works for me won't necessarily work for you. But it's kind of, taking the time to learn that about yourself is very important. The final thing I kind of wanted to talk about is one that I unfortunately can't really talk about in much detail, and that is money. Obviously, money is a huge part of moving out. You cannot do that without money. And also, it's very varied depending on who you are. A lot of disabled people can work, but also a lot can't. And whether you can or can't depends on, well, it's just completely personal. Some people can, some people can't. And there's no right or wrong. If you can't, then you can't. And there's no shame in that. I tried working. It didn't go particularly well. And so therefore I am on benefits, but because I am on benefits, I cannot really talk about money because anything I say can and will be used against me when it comes time to like review it and renew my benefits. And so I'd love to do like a video like in depth explaining, how I budget my money, because let's be honest, you don't get much money from the government. And therefore I am on a strict budget, especially since moving. Ironically, I've lost benefits money because the housing benefit part of it is less in Norwich than it was in Milton Keynes, because Norwich is considered cheaper, but I'm actually paying £100 more in rent than I was in Milton Keynes. So yeah, I've lost about £100, and I'm also paying about £100 extra. And of course, all of the, energy prices and stuff have gone through the roof. Food prices have gone through the roof. Everything's gone through the roof. So yeah, money is obviously a big part of moving out, and it is something I would love to talk about. I'd say I have a slightly better than average understanding of it because my mum works in finance. She always taught me how to manage my money. I've been saving since I was very young. I've been saving seriously since I was about 12 years old. I'd save all of my birthday and Christmas money. I'd save all my chore money. I was desperate to try and find a way to make money. And yeah, so I've always been kind of fairly good on the finance side of things. I don't buy impulsively. I genuinely buy things I need. I almost never replace things. I keep everything. Until it literally doesn't work anymore. there's holes in every single one of my leggings, and I really just need to throw them in the bin. But like technically I can still put them on, so therefore they're still more leggings than whole, and so therefore I won't throw them away. But yeah, I'd love to do a video on, going in depth on how I manage my finances, with the limited amount of money I have, and also, because I'm on benefits, I'm also limited on the amount of money that I'm allowed to save. Believe it or not, I'm not allowed to have, like, I'm literally not allowed to be responsible with my money. Because if I save too much, then apparently it means I don't need to be on benefits. But yeah, I really can't say any more than that because, like I said, it can and will be used against me. So yeah, one day I hope to be financially independent. After I finish university and I can, set up my own business and everything, I hope to be financially independent away from the government. And if and when that happens, I will be happy to sit down and make a video going into all of the nitty-gritty details of, the benefit system and how we made it work and how we actually got the benefits I'm eligible for, because let me tell you, they don't want to give them to you if they can help it. So yeah, I'd love to do that one day, and hopefully I will be able to, but for now I really can't talk about it too much. But yeah, obviously money is a big thing, so I would suggest kind of, researching, how to finance things, how to budget if that's not something you're already good at. Exactly, obviously calculate and make sure you can afford to move out. And yeah, so obviously again that's a very personal thing and I can't talk about it too much, which really sucks, but yeah, obviously just make sure you can afford to move out before you move out. But yeah, that's kind of everything I have to say. So I suppose to wrap it all up, the main things that helped me move out were my mum and then just problem solving my particular problems, which again will be different for everyone depending on, who you are, what you struggle with, what your exact disabilities are if you have any. But yeah, for me it was things like washing the dishes and cooking that I struggled with, but I solved those. And so really just problem solving is a lot of it. You kind of have to look at your own situation and, decide what you are and what you aren't capable of and go, okay, so I can't do this, but what can I do instead? Is there a way I can fix that? Or can I live with not doing it? And yeah, that really is all there is to it. Obviously, it'll be different depending on who you are, but I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave them below. Like I said, I can't talk about money too much, but I will try and give you as much advice as I can, so if you want some advice, if you want some first hand experience from, what I've experienced in certain things, then please feel free to comment down below. Or if you want, if you don't want the conversation to be public in YouTube comments, you can message me on Instagram. My details are in the description. And yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But yeah, other than that, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. And even if it wasn't, I hope you enjoyed. But yeah, like it if you did. Share it with anyone you think might find it useful, because I'd love if this could help someone. Subscribe if you want to see more. I do weekly vlogs as well as miscellaneous videos on Wednesday, whatever I'm really feeling at the time. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.